Welcome back to Up Front. Alabama stunned the nation last week by voting to send Democrat Doug Jones to the U.S. Senate. Jones narrowly defeated controversial Republican Judge Roy Moore, who'd been accused of making sexual advances toward teenage girls decades ago. Moore denied the claims. Does the vote in Alabama following elections in Virginia and New Jersey tell us anything about the climate for 2018 in places like Wisconsin? We're asking Marquette Law School poll director Charles Franklin, who just happens to be a native of Alabama. It's good to have you back on the program.
Good to be here.
What happened in Alabama? You know that state pretty well, obviously spent an important part of your life there. What happened?
Well, I think there are a couple of things. One that we've talked a lot about is the African-American vote absolutely showed up. African Americans make up about 26% of registered voters in the state, and they made up 29 or 30% of turnout based on the exit polls. So a solid, strong black turnout comparable to normal elections there, maybe even a shade better. The other is that the white vote, on balance, actually went for Moore, but about 30% of whites voted for Jones. That compares to only about 15% of whites that have been voting for Democratic presidential candidates recently. So that coupled with a little bit of a downturn in turnout in some of the counties where Trump ran strongest in 2016, you have strong black turnout, a decline in white turnout, and a rise of crossover votes among whites, not to a majority, but enough to tip the race by 1.5 points, it looks like.
So a lot of people, Democrats, including our first guest, Congressman Gwen Moore, think what happened in Alabama speaks well to what may happen in the future in election cycles, even in places like Wisconsin. Is it premature for Democrats to make that leap to that possible conclusion?
I think there are tea leaves that we're reading here, but some of the tea leaves are more convincing than others. I actually think in the Alabama case here, you had a Republican candidate who was at least credibly accused of child molestation or at least improper relationships, and he still only lost by 1.5 points. Now, Alabama is an incredibly conservative, very religious, and very Republican state. So the fact that a Republican lost it all is definitely big news, but you'd have to say this was an exceptional circumstance that is not going to be true of most candidates in the future. But that said, at the law school, we've been analyzing every special election that's happened this year. There are 87 of them now. And on average, the vote for Republicans is 4.5 points below the vote that Trump won in those same districts last time. 4.5 points may not sound like a lot, but it is a pretty big swing. Now, whether that will hold going into the next elections, we don't know. But right now, it's pretty clear that there is a headwind for Republicans nationally. In the case of Alabama, that headwind was much more. It was more like 13 percentage points different.
Something that could, and we say could because we don't know, it's too early, but could point to something of an enthusiasm gap for Republicans?
I think that what you saw in Alabama and you saw in Virginia, which held elections in November, is that the counties that voted the most for Donald Trump turned out at around 50% of what they did last time. In Alabama, it was 49% actually. And of the counties that voted most for Clinton, they turned out at 89%. So if you have a 40-point gap in turnout in Virginia and in Alabama, the most conservative, most Republican counties still voted Republican, but many fewer votes than you saw.
So it's something interesting about the Senate race in Wisconsin. You have a candidate who's been endorsed essentially by Steve Bannon's Political Action Committee, Kevin Nicholson, a Republican candidate in the U.S. Senate race. Bannon considered one of the losers in the Alabama race, but does that have any impact on the Wisconsin race?
I think it's one of those things that early on looked like it might be a plus. Now it looks like maybe it's a negative. In the end, at the moment, we have two candidates in that Senate race for the Republican nomination. I think that'll come down to how they stand with Republican primary voters here in the state, but it's certainly not a plus for the Bannon side of the wing. And just to add one more thing, the Alabama race shows how important it is to have a candidate on the ballot and a credible candidate, even when you think you can't possibly win. Because when Jones won that nomination, it sure didn't look like he was likely to win. You can't win with nobody on the ballot. You got to put people on the ballot to do that.
Charles Franklin is the director of the Marquette Law School poll. I should say that we're colleagues over at the law school. We appreciate your time, Charles. Good to see you.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Right. Our editorial partner, WisPolitics.com, will keep you up to date on the big elections in Wisconsin throughout the year. You'll find new developments on the election blog at WisPolitics.com. Coming up next, what a lawsuit in Eau Claire could mean for the Foxconn project.